Welcome back to The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time. Last time we entered and beat the child half of the Spirit Temple, and we obtained the treasure, the silver gauntlets, which will allow us to enter the adult half of the Spirit Temple. We're not going to be going there quite yet, but we are going to be finishing the Spirit Temple in this part. Just first, I want to show off a couple of extra things. A nice little attention to detail is that, just like with young Link, when Link gets an upgrade to his strength, it'll actually show on his body. As you can see, he's actually wearing the silver gauntlets, which is pretty cool, pretty good looking actually. I like the way the Zora Tunic, Hylian Shield, and silver gauntlets look together. Since I'm a bit low on magic, the first thing that we're going to be doing is going to the Great Fairy's Fountain. If you play Zelda's Lullaby here, well, in one that you've previously visited, you're not going to really get anything super special again, like another magic spell or a power upgrade. Instead, the Great Fairy will just refill your hearts in magic, which is pretty cool, although it's a cutscene for basically what a big fairy does. Big fairies only do, I think, 10 hearts and your full magic meter at this point, I believe. We are going to be getting an upgrade to the magic meter, although in a couple parts from now. Right now we're just stuck with the measly half full magic meter. And I made it nighttime because I just can't not collect gold sculptures that I know about. And that are pretty convenient because there's a piece of heart on top of this kind of arch thing here, and I want to collect it. But in order to collect it, I need to ride this leaf. And there's a gold sculpture that you can get if you ride this leaf. So I'm going to be getting both because I'm compulsively attracted to gold sculptures or something. I don't know. If you're a super casual, not at all pro scrub like me, you'll probably have to take the leaf twice if you want to get both of the prizes. There is the possibility that you can like kill the gold sculpture with a well-placed arrow and then use the hook shot to grab the gold sculpture token, but I'm not that good at the game and that would just waste more time, so I'm just gonna go the tried and true way and completely miss. Second time's the charm. This time we actually get on top and grab our piece of heart, which will conveniently refill our hearts. Thank goodness for editing. Now we can actually enter the Spirit Temple as an adult, and since we have our silver gauntlets, we can push the giant block that is in the way of the adult side. The silver gauntlets let you push, pull, and lift heavier objects. There are some silver boulders around the world that can't be bombed. You'll have to pick up the boulders themselves with the silver gauntlets in order to actually move them, and then you throw them to break them. Even though Link's arm strength is massively increased, that doesn't mean that we're going to be doing any extra damage to enemies, or that we'll be pushing smaller blocks any faster. Which, I don't think it's that big of a deal, but with something that, you know, it says that you're stronger now, it would make sense that, you know, stuff that was a hassle for you before isn't so much of a hassle now. Just like before, we're going to be taking the left path first, and there's a Wolfos here. Ironically, we meet the hard enemy, quote-unquote, for the child as an adult, and we meet the hard, quote-unquote, enemy for the adult as a child. As a child, we fought the Stalfos, and as an adult, we fought a Wolfos. There's a panel with the Triforce here. Well, it's not really a panel. The floor has a Triforce on it, so play Zelda's Lullaby, and you'll be able to hookshot to this chest, which contains the compass. If you're not looking for the map while you're a child, you might actually find the compass first. And I've seen playthroughs and I've fallen victim to that myself, actually, of getting the compass first and then the map, which should not happen. Those walls that we can climb as young Link, well, that we did climb as young Link, you can, of course, climb them as adult Link. I don't know why I said young Link specifically, but you can hookshot to them as well, making for a much easier time in my opinion. There's a bunch of silver rupees in this room, and there's that one hanging there, but we can't really get it now. There is a way to get it with the item from the 5th dungeon that we're going to be doing as an adult, but since we don't have that item, we're going to have to do a bit of clever maneuvering in order to get it. There's a time block here, and behind it is something completely useless, a gold Skulltula, but since I know it's there, I just have to grab it. I can't not grab it. I'm honestly wasting time by collecting all of these. Well, not all of them. I don't plan on getting all 100. I mean collecting the ones that I know are there. It's just, I can't help myself. Since we can't collect the silver rupee the way the game wants us to, at least I think the way the game wants us to, we're gonna have to basically hookshot onto the grabbable wall. And in doing that, we put ourselves on a path through the rupee to the wall so we can collect it like that. There are like-likes in this room, by which I mean there's one like-like. And luckily we have the big Goron sword, which can kill them in one hit. The treasure chest in here gives us a small key, so we'll have to backtrack to the central room of the adult side so that we can open the central door. And of course, using the hookshot is always the best option, because it just makes things go by so much faster. And it also makes you phase through boulders, which is, you know, pretty neat. Once you're on your path towards something with the hookshot, there isn't anything that can stop you, I don't think. Like, you're getting to your destination no matter what. You'll be invincible for the duration of the pull, I guess. And these like-likes are hard on the top. Actually, all of them are. So you can't really hurt them with a swing that's aimed at the sort of suction-y part of them. You have to hit them low. And the Goron sword is perfect for that because Link kind of ducks low and does a low stab when he uses it. In this room is an invisible enemy. Luckily it isn't too much of a jump scare because Navi will actually fly toward it before you even know that there's an enemy there. It's a floor master, and it spawns little baby floor masters. And they're also invisible, so you're gonna have to take care of them quick because the Lens of Truth only covers so much of the screen, and the screen only covers so much of the room, so it's a bit to deal with, you know. In this room, you have to push the light, and, well, not the light, push the mirror to reflect the light to all of these sun symbols so that you can actually open the door to exit the room. But I'm going to be showing off what happens when you go all the way to the end. And this is the first time I learned of this. If the light isn't permanently on the sun switch, just like with blue switches, it'll actually turn off whatever the switch does, so the door will close again. That's weird. I think that's the only switch that actually does that. Sun switch, I mean. That makes it so you have to have the light permanently on it in order for it to permanently function. These chests don't have anything special. A heart and a trap. The freezing trap isn't that big of a deal. It only took a quarter of a heart. I guess the most painful thing that it does is waste your time. There's an Armo statue right there. Don't push that one because it will actually hurt you if you try. What you need to do here is do a jump and hit that hand. Standing on it, obviously, there's a Triforce symbol, so you want to play Zelda's Lullaby in order to make a couple of chests appear. The game only shows you one, and the one that it shows you will appear on the other hand of this sand goddess statue thing. And we can't really jump to there, so we're gonna have to hookshot all the way to the chest. Luckily, we're on this side of the room now, so we can actually hookshot onto the torch that's at the top of the staircase, the child staircase. And remember how Navi was turning all green over there? Well, we can play the Scarecrow song and gain access to the other side. And there's another gold Skulltula over there. The second chest that appears due to us playing Zelda's Lullaby is on the opposite side of the room. You can kind of see it with the minimap. It's where the adult staircase is. Basically, we're going to be using the same method to get over there. The child Link can't actually get access to this staircase because there isn't any way to climb up or anything like that, so the only way to get here is with the long shot. And the only way to get across here is also with the long shot, because that chest has spawned, and it's pretty useless. The only thing that we really can do here is step on that switch, but this switch is rusted. We need the item from the next dungeon in order to actually press it. The only thing it really does though is create a shortcut from the beginning of temple to here, and I don't really need that because I'm doing the entire temple in one go. They are throwing a lot of BMOS at us in this temple, and I guess that's a topic to talk about, considering that there's another temple that has a lot of BMOS in it. By temple, I mean dungeon. By dungeon, I mean Dodongo's Cavern. You can actually access Dodongo's Cavern in, like, adult form. You don't have to be a child in order to do it. And there's these Anubises. I show off that you can use the fire arrows to take them down, but I'm going to be instead using Din's fire to take the other two down, because one of them is just way too far from you to really do a lot about him, or it. If you step on the switch right there, it'll just bring up another fire pillar with which you may kill the Anubises, but you're gonna have to do a little bit of weird maneuvering in order to get them into where the fire pit is, or fire pillar is, so I decide not to deal with it. We unlock this room over here, and it has a bit of a weird puzzle. In order to get into this room, you see there's a blue switch over there. The way to get something to step on this blue switch is to wake up one of the Armos Knights, hit him with the hook shot, and then have him jump toward you. He's gonna do that and step on the switch. You'll have a little bit of time in order to open the door and get through, although it's not very much, so be quick. Don't accidentally roll though either, so be quick and patient. This room kind of looks familiar. We have another iron knuckle to fight. This time it'll go by a lot faster because we have the big Goron sword, which does 4 times the damage of the Kokiri sword. Only about 5 jump attacks ought to do him in. Or should I say her in? A little bit of spoileriness for later, or foreshadowing I guess would be the proper word. Now that this door is opened, we'll have access to the adult side's dungeon item, which is a pretty cool looking item in the original version of the game. I like the design on it more, even though I see why Nintendo would change it. It has a bit of religious connotation to it. The item that we're getting is the mirror shield, and as you can see, the top symbol on it is the same symbol that's, you know, used by the Gerudo. You see it on all the blocks and stuff. And it's red and silver, so I'm instead going to be changing to the Goron Tunic because I think it looks better. And we also have the silver gauntlets to boot, so we're just looking amazing. Anyway, back to what I was saying. The previous symbol was a moon and a star, which I think it might be Islamic, if I recall correctly. And that's not like the first time that Nintendo's done censorship. I mean, this one was a lot more prevalent because it's on like all the blocks and stuff. But in like the original Legend of Zelda, there was a book in that game that enhanced your magical abilities, and I think it was called the Bible, but in this version they just call it the book. And I'm showing here that with the Goron sword out, you can't really use the mirror shield, but when you put it away, you can reflect beams of light onto sun switches and thus do some light puzzles. That's another thing to talk about. I said that there wasn't a light dungeon in this game, but there are puzzles that have to do with reflecting light, which I would imagine would have been used in the light dungeon had it, you know, actually been a dungeon in this game. Instead, they just kind of dumped the assets into the Spirit Temple, I guess. The Spirit Temple is a very general kind of temple anyway, so I guess this is the only place it would have fit. In this room, there's a bunch of sliding walls that are kind of difficult to climb. You need to have some good timing, but you could just hook shot to the top and skip all of that, you know, wonderful puzzling. And I threw a bomb. It's just the BMOS's eye exploding blew up my bomb before it could reach the other BMOS. If you turn around, there's some hearts that you can hook shot your way to, but I'm full. I don't need them. So I'm just gonna go on through. And there's another room where if you play Zelda's Lullaby, you'll be able to unlock something. This one just unlocks a door for you. This room kind of goes into why I think this dungeon should be one of the later ones in terms of a casual gamer going through, because these enemies and these doors here are things that are featured in the Fire Temple, which is usually people's second temple, or you know, you could make it your first. But these doors are all fake. If you try to open one of them, it won't work out. So instead you have to blow them up. And behind this specific one is an eye switch, which of course you can shoot with an arrow, and it will, you know, make a platform appear above us. And if you hookshot to the panel above the platform, you can jump across and hit the switch to stop the fire, and then get the boss key. Going back to saying that this is, you know, supposed to go after the Fire Temple, there's the switches from before as well, where you only can hit them with the item from the Fire Temple. And then there's the, like, distance that the first switch was at, where if you have the item from the 5th temple, you can actually get to it. 5th temple, I mean the 5th temple that we're going to be doing in this Let's Play. There's this switch here, and I'm pretty sure that that switch is moved in the previous version. It's like down below where I was just looking, but in this version you have to swipe your sword through the grate in order to hit it. It's not that, you know, difficult or anything like that, and it's not a very big change. I guess people just didn't realize that you can hit through walls, that your sword doesn't have collision detection, even though it does clang off of stuff. Although the big Goron sword clangs less, I think. Like, you can do a horizontal slash and hit like 5 rocks with the big Goron sword, but if you're using the Master Sword, you hit 1 and it bounces off. Or something like that. I mean, it will make clangy sounds like it did hit something, the big Goron sword I mean. But I am going way too off topic. This room requires that you know, make the light hit that kind of big mirror in the room that we were previously in, and by doing so you reflect light to the ground, which we can use with our mirror shield in order to actually progress with the temple. It looks like there's something around here, and I used the lens of truth to look around and see if there was, but I couldn't find the treasure chest that was around, so I decided to just, you know, keep going. So much for my no treasure chests left behind mentality. And these pots will fly way above you if you jump down while, like if you jump down from the top ledge close enough to them, they'll try to fly and hit you, but where you previously were, not where you currently are. This platform will lower once you hit the light to that sun switch. And now we have this goddess statue here again, back in the central room of both versions of the temple. And shining the mirror shield at it will crumble away the face, and we can hookshot inside of the face. Although there are other parts of the statue that you can hookshot onto. Kinda inappropriate, but you can hookshot onto the tips of the breasts of the statue. And oh look, we entered the boss room and it's just a iron knuckle again. The iron knuckle isn't the only one in the room though. We have Kome and Kotake. Kome is the one with the red jewel and Kotake is the one with the blue jewel. And they're the ones that sucked Naburu into the black sandpit hole. And now we have to face their loyal minion. And this is actually pretty cool. I like what this cutscene does. A really cool kind of thing to do in a cutscene with the limited graphics that are provided by the Nintendo 64. And I got hit on purpose there just to show that Iron Knuckles do 4 hearts of damage. If you're trying to do a 3-heart run of this game, they will kill you immediately. Although this Iron Knuckle isn't that hard to take down, and it turns out that inside was Naburu, That is actually true of all of the Iron Knuckles, I believe. If you kind of hack the camera and try to look right behind the helmet of the Iron Knuckles, you'll actually see Nabooru in every Iron Knuckle there is. Even in the next game, I believe, which also has Iron Knuckles. Very weird, but, you know, it's something you can cover up. It's not something you would expect people to find out, although people do naturally get curious about these things. And apparently they're going to use her some more and kind of obliterate her, honestly. They could have used that on me. I'm the threat here. But, you know, it doesn't matter. We're just going to go into the next room and fight the actual boss. I wonder who it's going to be. It's not like we just saw them. And this is such a Mega Man-esque room. If you don't know what I'm talking about, usually before a boss in a Mega Man game, there's this short hallway which acts as a checkpoint between the actual rest of the level or dungeon and the boss room. And that's what I always associate those kinds of rooms with. I just call them Mega Man rooms. They don't provide you with checkpoints though, so you might want to save, or actually leave the room and then kind of put up a Furor's Win just in case you die to this boss or something like that. But I haven't died yet, and I don't plan on dying anytime soon because I have the skills to pay the bills. I wish I could pay the bills with this. Kome and Kotake are actually the surrogate mothers of Ganondorf, though that doesn't mean much. What's more interesting about them is that each one has an associated element. Kome, the one with the red jewel, uses fire, and Kotake, the one with the blue jewel, uses ice. The point of this boss is to reflect their magic to the other one. So, if Kome uses a fire spell, she'll shoot a beam at you, and you're supposed to reflect it with the mirror shield to Kotake. Very interesting, and using the puzzle that you used in the dungeon, kind of reflecting light, but instead of beams of light, it's beams of magic. And it doesn't matter which one gets hit more, as long as, you hit one of them 4 times, I think it is, then I think the dungeon boss will be over. At least this phase of the boss will be over, because this dungeon has the biggest boss, quote-unquote biggest boss in the game. It lasts the longest, and it has the most phases, if you count the first phase being an Iron Knuckle, which I do, because it comes after you open the boss door, so I count that as a phase. In terms of how to deal with this boss most effectively, I would recommend trying to go for a corner where you can see both of them at the same time, which, isn't always going to happen. It's kind of random, the direction that they move in. And for some reason, they're a lot bigger than Link now. I'm pretty sure they were short before. That doesn't really have anything to do with anything. If you reflect one of their beams toward the ground, and it hits the ground, then it'll do whatever the beam's effect was originally going to be. So, say Kotake shoots her Ice Blast, and I accidentally shoot it toward the ground, there would be a big sort of ice ring that appears on the ground, and if you step in it, you'll get frozen still. And as you can see here, Kome shot a fire beam at me, and I reflected it toward the ground, and it made a big ring of fire. If you do reflect it toward the ground, you can't send it back at one of the witches. Once it hits the ground, it's going to stay near the ground. But now that we've done that phase, they'll actually fuse together into Twin Rova. And for some reason, they look like, I don't know, they look like they added their ages together and then divided by 20, which is not how averages work, but whatever. The goal in this version of the mini-boss is to store up 3 charges of a certain element. If she shoots ice at you 3 times, you absorb it 3 times with your mirror shield, and once that's done, you shoot a beam at her that will stun her. What I'm going to do here is perform a jump attack, and then get my Master Sword out so I can do a couple of crouch stabs, which will equate to 2 more jump attacks from the big Goron sword, and that'll kill her really quickly. In my opinion, that's the easiest phase of the boss. I mean, the Iron Knuckle can do a ton of damage, and fighting them separately means that you might be able to reflect one of their spells, but the other one isn't guaranteed to be on screen at the same time. For this one, all you have to do is absorb 3 of the same spell, and the first time she does the rotation, she always does 3 of the same, so you're definitely gonna get, you know, whatever beam is associated with the spells that you absorbed. And then, I guess not having the big Goron sword would make things a lot harder. Like, if you had the Master Sword only, it would take a bit longer. And if you collect the wrong spell, then instead it'll treat it as if you missed, and it'll hit the ground and do whatever the effect of the spell is. And now they're nagging at each other, and they have halos for some reason, like they're gonna go to heaven, and it looks like they are. That, I guess there's no hell in Hyrule. Either way, we beat the boss and the Spirit Temple, so we're just gonna collect our heart container, and next time on The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time, we're going to go through the warp and figure out who the next sage is, although I'm pretty sure everybody already knows.